Now broadcasting on your favorite podcast platform, it's the Maverick Do It Different podcast with your host, Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire. When you want to step up and dare to be different, when you will dare to be great and live up to your fullest potential, when you are ready to dare to be a maverick and live the life of your dreams, filled with abundance, passion, and joy, then it's time to listen to me, Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire, and the Maverick Do It Different podcast. And welcome to this podcast. It is Do It Different podcast. I am Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire, and I am here with one of our great authors this week, talking to her about just the amazing success that she's had. And I want to share some of her story, her background with you today. Robyn Maniscalco, speaker, author, entrepreneur, blogger, patient champion, and founder of Wellness Resource Support. And this is really key. This is where you're going to find tools, resources, and assistance to really manage all those challenges that, well, as a healthcare provider, or more precisely, someone who's taking care of someone in your family or yourself that is going through any challenges in healthcare, health challenges right now for you or your loved ones. Dedicated to helping patients, a caregiver, huge heart. She assumes the role of caregiver for everybody, and it all started with her mother, and I'm sure she's going to tell us her story about how she moved into this direction and this became one of her passions. She's researches all the answers, learned all the process, knows how to dig deep. This is the person to listen to. Please welcome my friend and author, Robyn Maniscalco. Pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
So, Robyn, with all your success, and one of the key questions, before we get down into the nitty-gritty of some of your story, you've had some obvious success. You have multiple different things that you do in your world. And what was the big shift, the change, if you will, in going from the average to really stepping up into some of your passion and your power?
The shift was being part of the Maverick community. That shift for me, being part of that community, changed both my personal and professional life in every way possible. I didn't know what was possible until I became part of that community, and my eyes were opened in a very different way. And I'm forever grateful for the ability to see what was in front of me that I didn't see before.
I appreciate that. What made you pursue that? You know, so many people, they see that there's things out there in the world that they can grab hold of that might make the difference. What actually made you step in and pursue it?
So my mom had a stroke. I mean, I had gone to different seminars and trainings before, but didn't really take the action. My mother had a severe stroke, and my family was being hit with all kinds of medical bills, and I knew that things needed to change. And I wanted to find some sort of passive income for my parents to help them, because it was a severe stroke, and I knew that their lives would never be the same again. So that was literally the trigger that made me step up and say, I need to do things different, as your motto is, and really take charge of my life and figure out where I was going and how can I help. So that was the jump off for me.
So many people face those components. So it was life situation, it was life moments that caused you to say, hey, I need to take a look and make that move.
Absolutely. Like, I just, you think like your parents raise you rely on your parents growing up, and you feel like they're always going to be there and have your back. And then when they become weak, it just something inside you suddenly become that parent. You want to rise up to the occasion and stand up in whatever way you need to do it. And that's literally what happened. And you're faced with a situation that I was never faced with before. And it's kind of like, where do you go? What do you do? And it was an eye opener and a light that was shining on something that I just didn't see. And that's literally what had me going.
But what makes the difference? So you saw that as something you had to step into, you had to figure it out, and you took, the bull by the horns, if you will, and like got in there and really changed not just the situation, but then created this whole movement and business. However, there are other people that have faced the same thing, like people that that have gone through the same scenario that did nothing. What makes you different?
Oh, it's absolutely mindset. If I had gone through this 10 years ago when I wasn't part of the Maverick community, I don't think that I would have taken the leap at all. Becoming part of the Maverick community and having people hold me accountable to think, because as humans, you kind of like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get to that, I'll get to it. And things don't happen, but having somebody hold you accountable and play the antagonist and talk to you about what's going on. I mean, I was going through an emotional roller coaster big time. And I'd say that even just the help that I got from managing my family and learning to delegate and using everybody in their strong points and being able to figure out what that was. I didn't know how to do that. And learning that, it made a big difference in how I reacted to the situation. So I'm a believer that things happen for a reason and people kind of come into your life for a reason. And at certain times when you need them most, right? They say that the student will find the teacher. I don't remember that saying, but they're like, you'll find the teacher, or the teacher will show itself when is needed. And I definitely feel like that was the case for me, because when I needed it most, the opportunity was there. And which, I mean, when I first started out on this journey, it was more to help me on the personal side and grow as an individual. And during that process, while caring for my mom, were really the eye opener of being able to take this on as a business that I just never even thought of. And conversation happened, with you over at a cocktail reception, and literally, you threw an idea at me, and I'm like, okay, well, couldn't sleep that night. And the next day I'm like, why not? I'm going to do it. 10 years ago, and had we had that same conversation, I don't think I would have got up the next morning and bought a URL. I wouldn't have taken that step. Absolutely not. It just, the mindset plays a huge role in
yeah, and I find it fascinating. Everything hit at the same time, that challenges come up into our life. We then are faced with, here are the resources to face that challenge. And we've already worked with our mindset to be ready to accept the challenge and to recognize the resources. And all that's got to hit at the same time to create the movement and motion that you then found yourself in, which is
absolutely
fascinating. So tell us, I remember the moment we were at a cocktail party, and literally we talk about ideas being written out on a cocktail napkin, and people joke about it, only we literally did it. The game plan for this business started on a literal cocktail napkin at a small little high top table in the middle of a bar. Yep. It was just almost surreal. And tell me about what this business is about and what you do.
So when you're a caregiver, or when you're faced with these moments where it's like, I don't know what to do. My mom just had a severe stroke. She's in a coma. You don't really know where to turn or what to do. So I had to do a lot of research myself to figure things out. I mean, doctors and therapists would send her on home care. We need to figure things out. It stemmed from the fact that they would send us home and literally tell us, oh, this is how you lift her. And I'm like, there has to be a better, more safe, reliable way than you're telling me by hold her by her pants and lift her. So that's really what started it for me, was this can't be the only way. Yeah. And started doing some research and finding other ways, which then became a pattern for her entire care. Was they would suggest one thing and I felt it was invasive or not good. So I would start doing research. And then what was happening was when we were going to facilities, therapists and hospitals and doctors, other people in the waiting room would be like, where did you get that? Or how did you come across that? And I would get all these questions and start sharing information with people just in the waiting room that they were like, wow, that's so great, things like that. And that's where that's how it all kind of started was, talking during at that cocktail reception was, well, how can your wife actually was the one who said, how can you start a business doing this because you're doing it already? And how can you make money? You're spending all this time anyway. And that's when you start a membership. So we have a membership website, and it's an online community that we help with resources for people that are in that same situation. They don't know where to turn, and they're looking for things just to make caring in their home a little bit easier. Or, I have had people come to me. One woman said to me, I changed her life. I changed her life, and she is ever so grateful that something so simple, as literally recommending a Google Home device so that they could talk as an intercom, changed this woman's quality of life forever, because she couldn't leave the home because her mother-in-law was blind. And it just, there's a longer situation than that, but basically I'm changing lives, the quality of life for people that are caring and can get back a little bit of that quality. And that's what we aim to do, and provide support.
It's amazing to me in this day and age, and with technology and all the information that's out there. We've been part of this information age, if you will, where everything is a fingertip away. And the challenge with that is that everything is a fingertip away. And unless you really know how to dig deep and really know how to read between the lines with all this and have the time and energy to do all the work, what's being told to you on first brush just does not serve.
Oh, agreed. And I don't think that it's that the medical community doesn't care enough to give you these answers. I don't think that they have the time to really sit and think about what would work for you in your personal situation. And that's what makes a company like mine so different, is that we do work with our members, and we say, okay, what are you having challenges with, and how can we find some way to solve that, right? So I used to spend hours every week, like it became like a second full-time job for me, was just researching things and ways for us, whether it was finding grants, helping financially to help pay for some of these things, like prescription. My mother's prescriptions were over $1,000 a month. It was insane, like we then had to make the house handicap accessible and buying ramps and chairs, and a lot of it's not even covered by insurance. So there are so many things out there that people don't even realize that are available to them. And that's why we become like the middle person. So we connect people to find what they don't even know that they may even need. There are people that go to the site and they look at stuff and it's like, hey, oh, wow, this is great. I didn't even think of that. And it makes a difference.
So it's everything from, all those different components of actually tools and resources, but also how to use those tools and resources in new and creative ways. So grabbing hold of that information on the site. And then it's also the custom work that you do in really diving deep. And I know my wife's gone through medical challenges over the last couple of years, and she really is an advocate, and she's talked to you about a lot of the things that she's been going through, and the research that gets done on the drugs and side effects and what she's going through and the treatments, and are there any side effects to that and what to watch out for, or how to take care of yourself before, during, and after. All this is information that it is not necessarily easy to grab hold of, and first brush is you'll get a piece of it, but you're not going to really have the whole story on how it applies to you. Right. And that's the service that you provide that's so important.
Even simple questions like, what do I ask my doctor? So many people don't even know what to ask a doctor, or don't feel comfortable asking a doctor. So if I give them a list of questions, they're much more comfortable saying, hey, can you answer these questions for me? Or they'll read it to the doctor, because now it's kind of like, well, they'll say my family wants these questions answered, so that they don't feel uncomfortable, because sometimes they just need to know that somebody's behind them, supporting them, pushing them forward, and guiding them in some way. And just, like there's just so much lack of support for caregivers out there. And you just feel so alone. And basically you're not alone, because there are millions and millions of people out there. And majority of caregivers are women who are working full time. So they're often caring for a family of children, and they're elderly, even special needs children and special needs elderly. And there's just not enough time in the day to have your own family and then doing research while caring for somebody who's got special needs. And it's it's a very tough environment, and it's only going to get more difficult as the years go on, because people are living longer and resources are becoming more slim because people become more busy.
Right.
And so that's where having something like this, and even one of the things that I work on with my members is their mindset. Like that's one of the first things that I want to ingrain in them, is like, you have to change your mindset, because in order for you to have a healthy relationship with yourself and your loved one, your mindset has to be a little bit different, and you need to look at things from a different way and understand what they're going through, and just not the frustration. So I actually those are some of the things that I do different than other companies may not do, because some other companies will, they offer resources and they sell things, but they're not taking the extra step to help people improve the quality of their life in all aspects and that's where I use a lot of my training is with that, the mindset. And even with my mom, she wasn't allowed to say can't. She was not allowed to say that in my presence, because when she couldn't, she said, I can't walk, or I can't do this. She didn't do it. So we changed some of the words that we used. Instead of I can't, or I will, or I am, and just making it positive. And then all things taken from my training and things that I've learned over the years in this program. And it's just been, that's where I do it different. Do it different.
That's awesome. Show the book one more time. You are in the book, Be a Success Maverick. We're going to have the link right here in the description, so you can go buy the book, read Robyn's information in there, grab a hold of what she has to say. With what you wrote in the chapter, if we've got listeners all around and readers all around the world now, what is the big takeaway that you would have them take away from your chapter in the book?
My chapter is entitled 67 Minutes, and that's literally the time that it took from me to get from home to the hospital to get to my mother. And it basically, that takeaway is life can change in an instant. It could literally change in minutes, seconds. You just get a phone call and your whole world is turned upside down. Mine was. And that's the takeaway. You don't have to wait till you get that phone call to get the information that you may need to help you, so that when that phone call does happen, which inevitably it will, because we're humans and life just evolves, people get sick, how to kind of be somewhat prepared for it when something like that does happen. I work with people who have not been through a trauma, but they have elderly parents or they have special needs children, where it's things like, what do you have set up for them? Do you have something called a family agreement, where people are in agreement that they know their roles, and when something does happen, these are their roles. And it's always best to talk to somebody before they have a trauma. An example was my mom. She had to be on diapers when she was in a coma. We didn't really know some of her wishes, but when she came out of the coma and she was like, I don't want a male nurse changing my diaper. I don't want a male nurse giving me a sponge bath. And we said, okay. And we made sure that was something that we abided by. But, we didn't know that beforehand. You just think that it's a medical professional, but to her, that's part of her dignity. And then to her, that she didn't want that. So just knowing that little things like that can just help out and give people a little bit of peace of mind.
Yeah. So important So
Yep.
so powerful, and everything that you do comes with the heart and care, and we can feel it. I really appreciate that about you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what's next? What's next for you?
So what's next for me? I'm putting myself out there in a more broader term. I've been doing a lot. Well, I'm planning more speaking engagements and around the country and trying to reach more. My goal is to reach more people and to grow the business even more. We have an app that people can download and utilize for resources there. We're on all forms of social media.
Yep.
Basically reaching people and having them understand and get some trainings. We are starting a course for trainings for those that are either caregivers and those that are not caregivers yet, but things that they may need to know. So I'd say the exciting thing is, I have a book coming out in February. That's basically her story, my why. And that's pretty much going to be my, my mother's story and my why, basically the whole reason for this business and lessons that I learned. So that I'd say is a big launch come February that we're looking to get done.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We are looking forward to seeing that in 2022. Very exciting. We've got a lightning round now. Give them insight as to who you are. Your favorite book that you'd recommend to people.
The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. And it's basically, it's not about religion or about death or dying. It's a guy, he dies and he's greeted by 5 people that he had an impact on in his life. So either in some way, some people he knew, some people he didn't. And it really, it goes along with how I feel that everything happens for a reason.
Right.
If you feel that way, this would be a great book for you to read.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's a simple read, but it's an eye-opening book. You don't realize how much it's kind of like that butterfly effect. You don't realize how you impact people, even just driving down the road. You never know what happens before, yep. It's a book like that. So
that's really neat.
Yep.
Do you ever think who are the 5 people that would show up at your gate?
Oh, absolutely. I've thought about that. Yeah.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Favorite movie?
Grease. I'm aging myself, but I love Grease 1 and 2. And I think part of that is sentimental. I mean, those were big movies in my house growing up. My sisters and I knew all the words to the songs, and yeah, so those are 2 movies that I can literally watch over and over and over and never be tired of them.
Here. I will say that was and I may be aging myself, but that came out when I was in my mid-teens. Yeah. So I was in the heart of that. Favorite singer and band?
So Michael Bublé, I'd say, is my favorite singer. I love him.
Awesome.
And my favorite bands would be New Kids on the Block. I'm a diehard New Kids fan. Still go to their concerts.
Say it ain't so. I'll let you slide with that one. All right. We're just gonna move right along. What's your biggest passion?
My biggest passion is that would be for me, it's life, right? Enjoying life, living life. Like that's
awesome.
Being present and living in the moment is a passion for me, right? So these days, so many people are just like, I just see people walking around and they're stuck in their phones. And I started having family dinners again on weekends with my family, and I don't even touch my phone on that day, because on Sundays, for those couple of hours, I'm present with my entire family. And it gotten to the point where all of us have pretty much put down our phones and we're just present. And I would say that's a passion for me, is just be present in the moment and just see what's there. I recently watched the Peaceful Warrior movie, and that was something that I remembered, and I'm like, you know what, it's just so true. If you stop and just listen and look, you'll see so much that you don't see on a regular basis. So stop and smell the roses.
Yeah. As cliche as that is, man, it works. Pick your head up, look around. Awesome. We've got listeners from all around the world. As I said before, some final words of wisdom.
Look for the opportunity. Say yes, right? So look for the opportunity around you. Had I not said yes a few years ago, I would not be where I am today. It amazes me how the first 40 years of my life, like I was very closed-minded about things, and you just have a tunnel vision. Right. But the last few years, I've learned to say yes a lot more, and a lot more opportunity has been before me. So that's my words of wisdom. Say yes more, and
say yes more. Say yes more. Say yes every day. Yeah, awesome.
I just started implementing a do something different each week, as far as like going along with the say yes, but taking a different route to work or to the store, or eating your meal in a different seat in the house or at the table. Just doing something different that you, instead of being, because you start to see a very different viewpoint. So if you always eat on this side of the table and you go to this side of the table, it's just a different view. Or if you always go to this restaurant and you go to this one now, you don't know who you're going to run into, or what opportunities you may see, or what stores, even your route, right? You're driving a different route, what stores may have opened, or, what you may see going on. So that's something that I've now started to do. And it's actually like, wow, I didn't know they opened up this store here. Or, oh, I didn't realize I need to paint that part of the wall. I mean, it's just something as simple as change it up.
Do it different. I read years ago, and I believe I've got this right. It was Steve Jobs, who every day for a year drove to work a different way. And it was very much a advocate for this concept of do it different, to create new synapses in your brain, to create a new viewpoint, a new understanding, a new perspective. And so that was one of the things that he did. And I started initiating that right after I heard that story, and doing similar to what the challenge that you're facing now. And I know one of the pieces of real estate that I bought that created that building created about $80,000 in profit for me that year. That building I wouldn't have bought if it wasn't for turning right instead of left in my route. And it was one of those little things that I turned the other way, which I normally never did, and went down a different street, and the house was right there. And I had never seen it before. Stopped the car, walked in the next morning, I had it under contract. And it was just because I went right rather than left. You never know. Yep. You never know. Do it different. That's the message that we're leaving you with in this podcast. Absolutely. And we're in the Google Play, we're in Spotify. This is going to be everywhere. You want to know how to connect up with Robyn Maniscalco, right here in the description is the link to her author page. And in that author page, you'll hear all that you want to know about Robyn, and the link to reach out to her directly. All that and more is available to you right here. So go ahead and reach out to her. She is an amazing human, amazing person, huge heart, and absolutely cares. You're going through anything with your family or yourself, she is the person to lean on. She will be there for you. Robyn, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
It's only the beginning, as you know.
Absolutely.
The beginning of the journey, and there's so much more. Thank you so much for being here. This is the Maverick Do It Different podcast. I am Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire. This is where we dare to do it different each and every time. Till next time, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Paul Finck. That's me, the Maverick Millionaire, and the Maverick Do It Different podcast. You can listen to us anytime, 24/7 on your podcast listening platform of choice. Introduce us to your friends, give us 5-star rating and subscribe, and share us across all your social media platforms to anyone that could really utilize this message right now. Till next time, everyone.